Greetings, Skill Incarnate bringing you all the latest indie gaming goodness. Welcome back as we look at another indie game. This time I'm checking out a new point-and-click adventure called Brok The Investigator on the PlayStation. This game was developed and published by Cowcat, who worked on another popular point-and-click game called Demetrios The Big Cynical Adventure, and was suggested by one of my viewers after seeing my reviews on similar games like Lacuna and Beyond Horizons. Brok The Investigator takes inspiration from classic LucasArts style adventure games like Full Throttle and Sam & Max, with a unique art style and distinctive character design. The game genre has been referred to as point and kick, with players utilising exploration and puzzle solving mechanics, along with a side-scrolling beat-em-up system, allowing you to let your fist do the talking when diplomacy fails. The game was extremely popular on Steam, with players appreciating the game's challenging puzzles, well-written story and likeable cast of characters. After the recent port to PlayStation, I spent over a dozen hours completing the campaign, and I can confirm it's an adventure worth your time. The story of Brok the Investigator takes place in a post-apocalyptic future. With mankind absent, the world is populated by talking animals. Society is separated into two classes. The drummers are the wealthy upper class, who live in domed cities shielded from the danger of the outside world. The slummers are the less fortunate portion of the population, forced to eke out a living in the radioactive wasteland surrounding the domes. Brok the Alligator is a former boxer, now a detective working in the slums. He takes on odd jobs to earn enough money to provide for himself and his adopted son Graff, while struggling with trauma caused by the tragic death of his wife. Graff is a brilliant student, with a dream to become a scientist like his late mother. The game follows Brok and Graff as they go about their daily routine, with Brok working as a detective by day and an underground boxer by night, and Graff taking a series of tests that will grant him citizenship into the Dome. The narrative is easily the best part of the game, tackling surprisingly heavy subjects like PTSD, depression and class struggles. This is supported by an eccentric cast of characters, who are all fully voice acted and can dramatically change the direction of the game based on your interactions with them. Ultimately, the decisions that you make during the game will determine which of the game's 11 endings you'll reach. The game involves a player switching between Brok and Graff. Brok solves a variety of cases for his clients, finding clues, solving puzzles, and interrogating suspects. With each successful case, you'll build his reputation, taking on more high-profile jobs and forging relationships with the denizens of the slums and the drums. When controlling Graff, you'll deal with teenage drama and Graff's fractured relationship with Brok. Eventually, the father and son are swept up in a conspiracy involving a bioweapon that places the population of the slums and the drums in danger. Players familiar with point-and-click adventure games will be right at home with Brok's exploration and puzzle-solving mechanics, scouring each environment to find clues and locating items that can be combined together to solve puzzles. Speaking of puzzles, the game has the largest variety I've ever seen in an adventure game, with some truly diabolical problems that took me hours to solve, particularly for Graff's section of the game. However, the fighting sections were a little disappointing, with an extremely simplistic combat system with a very narrow range of attacks and special moves. along with some very clumsy controls. Thankfully, combat is not the main focus of the game, and the player can often avoid combat entirely by resolving situations via negotiation and puzzle solving. Brok the Investigator is an adventure game with a unique combination of puzzle solving and side-scrolling combat, boasting a surprisingly detailed story bolstered by some brilliant voice acting, a unique graphical style, and some of the most challenging puzzles I've played in an adventure game to date. Thankfully, the developers have implemented a hint system, allowing players to receive clues to help with some of the more challenging puzzles, along with several difficulty modes including a casual difficulty for new players. While the combat mechanics were an interesting inclusion into the game, they feel less polished, and could have been skipped without any major impact to the story. If you're a fan of classic point-and-click adventure games, if you're wanting to try a game with a unique style, or you're just looking for a game with a lot of replayability, then you should check this game out. But if you're looking to buy a game for the beat-em-up mechanics, then you should look elsewhere for a smoother experience. I hope you enjoyed this review of Brok the Investigator. And if you did, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe, as it really helps the channel. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you join me next time when we check out another indie game. Until then, Skill Incarnate, out.